This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Habayim. Bruchim Habayim to the Agor Kalal Agor de Perka Monday afternoon National Shiur. Today's learning Shavil Ilay Nishmas Rabbi Shimon Yehoshua ben Shmuel Yaakov, Rabbi Rama Mordechai ben Yosef, Sarah Fega Bas Malka Fradal, Began Eden Teimenu Chasam. They should be Melitza Yisharim for their family. Ad Bias Goel Tzedek. We're very excited to show you the new Sefer on Lag BaOmer. Lag BaOmer, the fire and the soul. The fire and the soul. The mystical power of Lag BaOmer, Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, and the Zohar HaKadosh. This year, you can't go to Meron. However, if you buy this book, you can look at the picture. And just by looking at the picture, it will be as if you went there. Once you have the book, you might as well crack it open. Maybe you'll learn a thing or two about Lag BaOmer also. But just the picture alone, and you can even slip off the slip cover. You could look at this, and if you don't want to read, you could give it to somebody else. So that's also an option. Today, in preparation for this upcoming weekend, I have a great opportunity. This coming Shabbos, I'm going to be in the city of Krakow. Krakow is Ir V'Eim V'Yisrael, a very prominent city for the Jewish people. Krakow had many great Rabbanim throughout history. You had, of course, the Rama, Rav Moshe Isserlis. You had the Rebbe Reb Heschel, the Megala Amukos, Reb Shimon Sofer, Reb Yosef Engel, Reb Yosef Nechemia, Kornitzer, and other notable Rabbanim. And there's an idea that we don't make monuments for tzaddikim. Their words are their monument. There's an idea, divarehem heim tziyunehem. Their words are their monuments. The Rama, Rav Moshe Isserlis, is the final word on all minhagei Ashkenaz. So the Shulchan Aruch, the Beis Yosef, after he wrote extensive comments on the Torah called Beis Yosef, he summarized it in the Shulchan Aruch. On the Shulchan Aruch, the Rama, Rav Moshe Isserlis, wrote comments. He always introduces his comments with the word Haga, and his commentary is known as the Mappa, the tablecloth. Now we're going to discover something very interesting about the Rama, namely, let's see if you could, namely, the yard site of the Rama is Lag BaOmer. And Hagon Reb Chaim Kreisworth, as reported in the Sefer Torah Magen, the Hagon Reb Chaim Kreisworth, his custom was to every year go to the Rama's kever in Krakow, because the Rama passed away on Lag BaOmer. But that's not the only reason. There's another very interesting and fascinating reason why Reb Chaim Kreisworth would go to the Rama's kever on Lag BaOmer. Because in a certain sense, the Rama was the one who invented Lag BaOmer. What does it mean the Rama invented Lag BaOmer? If you look in the Shulchan Aruch, the Shulchan Aruch says the minog is not to say Tachnon on the 15th of Av, or the 15th of Shvat, or on Rosh Chodesh, or in the Mincha before, and on Chanukah, and some say even the Mincha before Chanukah, and not on Purim. But the Mechaber doesn't say anything about Lag BaOmer. The Rama is the one who said, "Lag BaOmer Noiflin, we don't say Tachnon on Lag BaOmer." Furthermore, the minhag is not to take haircuts until the 33rd day of the Omer, where they say that the students of Rabbi Akiva stop dying. But the Mechaber says we don't take a haircut until the 34th, unless the 33rd comes out on Erev Shabbos. Comes the Rama. In our communities, we don't follow the Mechaber. We shave, we take a haircut even on Lag BaOmer. And not only that, we increase our simcha, and we don't say Tachnun. So who invented Lag BaOmer? The Rama was the first to talk about Lag BaOmer. Lag BaOmer is not mentioned, not in the Gemara, not in the Medrash, not in the Sifri, not in the Sifra. Nowhere is Lag BaOmer mentioned. The Rama is the first one to codify Lag BaOmer. So we don't just go to the Rama on Lag BaOmer because it's his yard site. We go to the Rama. The Rama was the first Paisek to discuss Lag BaOmer. Now, how do we know the Rama passed away on Lag BaOmer? The Taz in Siman Tavchaf discusses something very interesting. The Taz says that on any day that you don't say Tachnun, the Shulchan Aruch says, you don't say Tziduk Hadin. You don't say Tziduk Hadin by a Levaya. And the Torah says the Chachmei Magensa said Tziduk Hadin on Rosh Chodesh, Chanukah, Purim for an Adam Gadol. Says the Taz, I heard that in Krakow, in the year 1573, and we're going to learn about that date because it's not so simple that the Rama passed away in 1573 in Shin Lamed Gimel. It may have been a year before, but the Taz reports that in Shin Lamed Gimel, when the Rama passed away, and they didn't know should they say Tziduk Hadin or should they not say Tziduk Hadin by the Rama's Yartzah on the Rama's Levaya. An important person got up and he testified that he heard from the Rama that you should say Tziduk Hadin, because he remembers hearing the Rama say that you should say Tziduk Hadin, and they in fact said Tziduk Hadin on the Rama out loud, and therefore the Taz's conclusion is you should rely on this. On a day that you don't say Tachnun, you would still say Tziduk Hadin. For example, Lag BaOmer, Tu B'Av, Tu B'Shvat, which are not a Moyed. Especially the Rosh says that Tziduk Hadin and Kaddish are not a eulogy, it's just a Hoidah and a Kabbalas Din. But not on Rosh Chodesh, Chanukah, and Purim, which are, and Chodesh Nisan, that they have a source in the Gemara. Those days you don't say Tziduk Hadin. So it's very interesting, the custom to visit the Rama on his yard site, not only because it's his Yoma Hilula, but also because the Rama was the first to describe and to codify Lag BaOmer. There's a Sefer Berchas Shloimeh, which is a biography of Rav Shlomo Leib of Tichin. He says that on the 33rd day of the Omer, if you go visit the Rama, you should increase in tzedakah to Eretz Yisrael, because in Eretz Yisrael they celebrate at the kever of the Rashbi, and if you're standing by the Rama and you're giving tzedakah to Eretz Yisrael, it will be considered like you're at the kever of the Rashbi. So this year you can't actually go to the kever of the Rashbi. So the best you could do is go to the Rama and give tzedakah for Eretz Yisrael. But I would argue, what if you can't make it to Meron and you can't make it to the Rama? I would say, learn the Torah of the Rama, give tzedakah to Eretz Yisrael, and then it will be like you're there. By the way, in the notes, She'eris Tzion of Rabbi Menachem Mendel Krengel, he brings in his notes on the Shem Hagdama of the Chida reports that the Rama wrote a very well-known sefer, Teiras Chatas. We discussed it yesterday. And he mentions the minhag that thousands would go to the kever of the Rama on Lag BaOmer. And the Rav of the city would say all kinds of drashais and musar and pilpulim to answer difficult rulings in the Rama, whether rulings that others leave b'tzarchion, and we'd give a lot of tzedakah. And any time during the year, if someone had a particularly difficult situation, people would go to the kever of the Rama and they would be mishtateach on his kever and they would be marbe b'tfilah. Now, the Maharash Shach, Reb Shimon Shatan, who was a descendant of the Kos Yeshuos, he says in a drasha, he describes a drasha that he gave on Krakow on Lag BaOmer in the year Tuf Reish Yud Zayin. That's 1857. So you see, it was an ancient custom to darshan by the in Krakow on the yard side of the Rama on Lag BaOmer. This goes back at least to 1857. In 1861, we have the drasha of Reb Shimon Sefer recorded in the Sefer Michtav Sefer. He says, Yom Vav, Erev Shabbos Kodesh, a drush l'kavod the Rama, and he said that we know that tzaddikim, the likes of the Rama, are as if their eminence is as if they're alive. And especially someone of the caliber of Rav Moshe Isserlis, that it says about him on his kever, Mi Moshe ad Moshe lo kam ke Moshe, who illuminated the eyes of the Jewish people more than the Rama. Krakow deservingly should take pride that she conceived and bore the shepherd of Israel, the Rama, and she has rightful place as an ear, the aim be Yisrael. And in the notes on the Michtav Sefer, Rabbi Yosef Naftali Stern, he brings that every year Rabbi Shimon Sefer would darshan in the shul of the Rama on his yard site, and he would always say a difficult passage of the Rama and speak about the greatness of the Rama. One particular drasha that the Michtav Sefer said, which is very interesting, is that, think about it, what's the commonality between the Reb Shimon Bar Yochai and Reb Moshe Isserlis? So my father, Gold of MMH, says, Reb Shimon Bar Yochai is the paragon of the wisdom of Kabbalah. Reb Moshe Isserlis is the backbone of the world of halacha. And the hashgacha is showing that even when there is great knowledge of the mystical elements of the Torah, but still it always has to be founded on the principle and the foundations of halacha. So that's the significance of the Rama having the same yard site as Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. But there's also a very interesting commonality between them. Namely, they are the two individuals in history that their fathers' names are seared onto their own name. What does it mean, Moshe Isserlis? Israel was the Rav Moshe's father. Isserlis was not his last name. His father's name was Israel. In fact, the story goes, it's reported, that Rav Israel was one of the great parnosim and leaders of the community, and he was in the garment industry. He had a big store, and he sold silk, and his minhag was Erev Shabbos at Chatzos, he would close the store. One time the Samach Mem got very jealous of Rav Israel, and he wanted to test him, and he dresses up like a prince and an officer, and he came into the store, and he says, I would like to buy a round of this, and I would like to buy many feet of that, and a few meters of that, and he was going to make a very, very big purchase, a tremendous purchase, and the clock is ticking, and Rav Israel is like, I really got to close the store, and he's like, don't rush me, and finally Chatzos comes, and Rav Israel says, I'm sorry, I have to go. And the person says, well, if I can't complete the sale now, I'm not going to make the purchase. And Rav Israel says, so be it. And in the merit that he did not abolish his regular practice of closing the store at Chatzos, he was zoicha to a son, the Rama, who was the illuminated the eyes of Israel. So the Rama's father was Israel, Rav Moshe Isserlis. Yochai was the father of Reb Shimon. These are two tzaddikim who their fathers' names were seared onto their name. And Reb Shimon Sefer understood the significance of that is Reb Shimon Bar Yochai did not invent Kabbalah. He did not create it. He didn't innovate it. It was a tradition that he taught and relayed and transmitted. He was continuing the Messiah, not innovating. Likewise, the Rama was not creating new custom, was not creating new halacha. The Rama was recording the ancient customs of Poland and Germany. So these are two great individuals who are continuing Mesiras Avaisenu, especially the Rama, who was a great philosopher. The Rama held that philosophy and Kabbalah were very similar in nature, almost identical. The Rama was a proponent of learning other disciplines. The Rama encouraged the learning of astronomy and history. In fact, he had a student, the Tzemach David of David Gans, who learned philosophy, and it was in correspondence with other astronomers of the time, Tycho Brahe, Johann Kepler. It's very interesting. The Rama on his deathbed said that he had just recently learned about the passing of the Arizal, the great Mekubal, and the Rama himself was passing on. But the Rama said that whenever a tzaddik passes on, God already creates beforehand the Mamale Makayim, and God grooms other tzaddikim to rise up and take the place of these tzaddikim who are passing on. The Rama pointed to the rise of Polish Jewry, just as in the end of the 15th century was the fall of Spanish Jewry. So the Rama said that my student, Reb David Gans, told me that Tycho Brahe discovered a new star in the heavens called Nova. And the Rama said he hopes that discovery of the new star portends that new tzaddikim are being born in the world. So, and yet, even though the Rama was very knowledgeable in many disciplines, but he was a great advocate and proponent of Minhag Yisrael. He would always say, he was meshubed to Minhag Yisrael. And he would always say, don't be mezalzel in Minhag Yisrael. So this showed his connection to Mesoras Avaisenu. That's why his father's name was seared onto his own name. After the passing of Reb Shimon Sofer, Rav Bunim Sofer was appointed the Rav in Krakow, and he was given the distinction to darshan on Lag BaOmer in the Beis HaKnesses of the Rama. And it's very interesting to point out that one time Rav Bunim Sofer said as follows: Emar Bahar B'chukaisai. Lag BaOmer always falls out either in the week of Emar, the week of Bahar, or the week of B'chukaisai. To be merames, that the rulings of the Rama are so sacred to us. Emar are the oisios Rama. You could unscramble the word letters Emar to spell Rama. Aleph Mem Resh, it spells Rama. His rulings are so dear. Bahar, as if it was given on Har Sinai. B'chukaisai, as a statute from Moshe Rabbeinu. Another great Rav who darshaned in Krakow on the Yartzeh of the Rama was Rabbi Yosef Nechemia Kornitzer. And he would say, I guess one time Lag BaOmer was on a Friday, and he says that even though the minhag is to darshan in honor of the Rama, but the Rama always warns us to be mamayet in one's learning on Friday to be able to prepare for Shabbos. So the right way to memorialize the Rama when Lag BaOmer falls out on Friday is basically to cut the drasha short, which is not an easy feat for a rabbi. Okay, and then the Rabbi Yosef Nechemia Kornitzer in another drasha, he said, the minhag in Krakow on Lag BaOmer is to answer and to reconcile any difficult ruling in the Rama. And the truth is, what is really a honor to the Rama? To reconcile a difficult ruling of the Rama? If we had the intellectual capacity and the intellectual acumen, well, then we would understand what the Rama means and we wouldn't have a question in the first place. The real honor to the Rama is if we fulfill his rulings. The first ruling of the Rama in Shulchan Aruch is Shivisi Hashem lenegdi tamid. I place God before me always. So let's ask ourselves, do we fulfill that? Do we honor that? Do we live by that ideal? If we would follow that and live by that ideal, that would really truly be an honor to the Rama. This I love because on Friday we read from the Shla Kadosh that the Marshal is really a basroi to the Rama, because the Marshal's Isser V'Heter was even later than the Taras Chatas of the Rama. But the Shla indicated that just like the halacha is like Hillel over Shammai, the Shla sort of indicated maybe the Marshal was sharper, but the Rama excelled in humility. Well, in the Sefer Be'er Yisrael, Rabbi Yitzchak Frankfurter, he brings from Rabbi Shimon Sofer, who once said that he heard from the Chassam Sofer that the Rama had the neshama of Hillel, and therefore the halacha is like him. The Marshal had the neshama of Shammai, and the Sifrei Kabbalah bring Na'aseh Adam. Na'aseh Adam. Na'aseh Adam is Rashi Tevos Nimlach im Shammai Hillel. God says, when I make man, I have to consult with Shammai and Hillel. So we have to understand, why Dafka does God have to consult with Shammai and Hillel? And Reb Shimon Sofer would say, from the Chassam Sofer, Gemara tells us in Erevin that for 2.5 years, Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel disputed, is it better for a person to have been created or to not have been created? And they nimnu v'gamru, they came to the following conclusion: a person is better off not being created. It's not an easy journey in this world. Now that doesn't mean that it's not better for anybody. It means it's an arduous journey. If you live properly, it was certainly worth it. But the bottom line is, before God created man, He had to check with Shammai and Hillel, because you can't do something to someone's detriment if they're not present. So it's because Beis Shammai Beis Hillel held that it was better not to be created, God had to consult with them, so to speak. Now, this is very interesting. In the Shem HaGedolim, he brings that his son, Avram, the Chida never traveled to Eastern Europe, but his son Avram made it there. And his son went to the kever of the Rama. And his son reported that on the kever of the Rama, it says, on the 33rd day of the Omer, on the year 333, that's 1573, at 33 years old, the Rama passed away. In the Sefer Lev HaIvri, he reports that not only did the Rama pass away at 33 years old, and on the 33rd day of the Omer, and in the year 333, he also wrote 33 Svarim. Moreover, at his Levaya, they try to praise him with 33 praises. And they came up with 32, and they were searching for the 33rd. And they said the 33rd praise was often on the night of Purim. People would forget to daven Marav because they were inebriated. This is Matzai Purim. And the Rama would put on a mask, and he would remind everybody, daven Marav, don't forget to daven Marav. That was the 33rd praise they said about the Rama. The problem is that some of these details are erroneous. In the footnotes on the Shem HaGedolim, he brings that the Rama did not die in the year 333, it was 332. By the way, even though the Taz himself wrote the Rama died in the year 333, on his kever it says 332. And furthermore, the lashon of the kever, it says Even Mikir Tizak, Ner Ma'aravi, Hagoin Hagadol, Mareinu Harav Moshe Roya Even Yisrael B'yoim Gal Lemisvar B'nei Yisrael Gala Kavod Mi Yisrael Moshe Haya Roya Tzayin Yisrael Tzidkas Hashem Asa Mishpatim Im Yisrael Hemed Tamidim L'Ravavais Alfa Yisrael Mi Moshe Ad Moshe Loikam B'Yisrael V'zois Teras Hachatas Ha'oila V'Ha'asham. The Rama wrote a sefer, Teras Hachatas, Teras Ha'oila, and it's the year Shin Lamed Beis. First of all, the Rama was not 33 years old when he passed away. It does not say that on his Matseva. The Rama was, the Sefer Teras Ha'imagin says he was 52. The Rama was 42 when he passed away. Not 33, not 52, he was 42. But it is true that he was niftar on Lag BaOmer. And it could be the Chida's son, in reporting that it was the year 333, took the liberty to be 1 year off, just to show the Rama's connection between to the number 33. An interesting thing is how the Rama ends off his commentary to Arachaim. The final words of the Rama are V'toiv leiv mishdat tamid. Someone with a good heart is always at a party. There's a famous observation of the Bnei Yissaschar. We know that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai sent out his Talmidim and he said, go out and see what path should a person cling to. And Rabbi Elazar ben Aruch said the path is leiv toiv, a good heart. The Bnei Yissaschar explains as follows. In order to learn Torah, you need to have a lave. A lave is a mind. A lave is 32. 32 represents the elementary and basic, fundamental pathways of understanding Torah. Once you are able to get the foundations of Torah, lave 32, then it's time for Toiv. Toiv are the secrets of the Torah. For example, if you look in Sefer Bereshis, the word Elohim appears 32 times. Corresponds to the Lamed Beis Nesivais Chachma, the 32 pathways of wisdom. And after that come the 17 dimensions of Kabbalah. The 33rd word in the Chumash is Toiv. You know that? The 33rd word in the Chumash is Toiv. Because once you surpass 32, you're ready for the secrets of the Torah. The days of Sphira correspond to Leiv Toiv, 32 and 17, 49. The pathway of the preparation for Kabbalah HaTorah is Leiv Toiv. In order to receive Torah, you need Leiv Toiv. There are 32 pathways of wisdom and the 17 dimensions of the secrets of Torah. The Rama passed away on the 33rd day of the Omer. Isn't it telling? Says Rabbi Chiel Michal Hubner. Isn't it telling? The Rama's closing words on Shulchan Aruch are Toiv Leiv. The Rama passed away after 32 days of the Omer, when we begin the days of Toiv, the 17 days of the final days of the Omer. The final words of the Rama on Shulchan Aruch are Chaim, are V'toiv Leiv Mishta Tamid. And it's amazing that the Rama concludes his comments on Shulchan Aruch with these words. Says Rabbi Chiel Hubner in Maaseh Yechiel, Kvar Amarti b'madasiyim harama b'archaim v'toiv leiv mishta tamid. That's a remez for Lag BaOmer, which is in between the days of Leiv and the days of Toiv. It's the day that we celebrate the Hilula of the Rashbi. It is also the day that we commemorate the yahrzeit of the Rama. So fortunate are those, I was asked, this year, one is not able to go to Meiron. But there's an idea, Asher bidvaroi ma'ariv aravim b'chachma poiseach sha'arim. That when one sun sets and when one door closes, when Hashem is ma'ariv aravim, He's also poiseach sha'arim, He opens up doors. So this year, if we can't physically go to Meiron, by studying the Torah of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, by studying the Torah of the Rama, Hashem, we hope, opens up for us new doorways and new vistas of understanding their great wisdom. And since the main matzeva of tzaddikim are not their graves, but rather their words, so in a sense, maybe we'll be able to even surpass what we can normally achieve on a regular Lag BaOmer. So may the merit of Reb Shimon and Reb Moshe Isulis be Magen Ba'adenu, and they should be Militzei Yesharim for Klal Yisrael, Ad Bias Goel Tzedek. Thanks for listening. We'll see everybody. You could join us Wednesday morning, and this week's Shiur will be Tuesday evening. Please stay tuned. Thank you very much.
Rebbi,
yes.
do you remember in the early days of our Shiurim at the Israel Garden Hills, we had a pretty regular attendee, Jerry Orenstein? Jerry?
I believe so. Yes.
I think his son
lives in Poland, right?
is the head of the Jewish Community Center in Krakow.
Can you get me his number?
I don't know. I don't have it.
Okay.
But just in case you run into somebody named Orenstein.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.